Democrats squirming over Obamacare. Just a day before the State of the Union, another member of the president's party sounds the alarm. This is Special Report. Good evening, I'm Brett Baer. Another Democrat is warning tonight of impending disaster over Obamacare. Virginia's Jim Moran says the whole thing could fall apart if young people do not sign up. This comes as Senate Republicans unveiled their version of an alternative bill just a day before the president's marquee address to the nation. Congressional correspondent Mike Emanuel takes a look.
An erratic but always liberal House Democrat Jim Moran of Virginia broke with the president on the issue of Obamacare, warning the law could unravel.
I'm afraid that the millennials, if you will, are less likely to sign up. I think they feel more independent. I think they feel a little more invulnerable than prior generations.
A new poll from the Associated Press reveals of those who've tried signing up for Obamacare, 71% have encountered problems, and 2/3 of Americans say things still aren't going well. Yet at the White House, spokesman Jay Carney said the administration believes they're now heading in the right direction.
We are seeing a significant surge in enrollment in signups. We are seeing, and we saw in December, a significant surge in the percentage of young Americans under 35 enrolling.
Meanwhile, Florida Republican Senator Marco Rubio continues pushing a proposal that would eliminate a provision of Obamacare, allowing for a taxpayer-funded bailout of insurance companies at the administration's sole discretion.
All these companies that are going to be losing money on these policies, every single one of them under Obamacare is going to have the opportunity to be bailed out by the taxpayers. That's wrong. We need to stop that.
Making the case that repealing Obamacare is an economic and moral necessity, 3 Republican senators, Richard Burr, Tom Coburn, and Orrin Hatch, have unveiled an alternative. The senators say they would lower health care costs, increase consumers' choices and control over their benefits, provide help for people with pre-existing conditions, and reform Medicaid so it is sustainable. The Republican alternative, known as the Patient Care Act, would also scrap the healthcare.gov website, the more than dozen taxes related to Obamacare, and replace them with tax credits so consumers can buy the health coverage they want.
This proposal is sustainable and achievable. And without the tax hikes, mandates, budget-busting spending that have made Obamacare so unpopular with the American people. Most importantly, unlike Obamacare, our plan will reduce health care costs for American individuals, families, and businesses.
The White House tried to dismiss it as more of the same.
Aides that have crafted the Republican version say it may have to wait until 2017 when Mr. Obama leaves office. But if Republicans win back the majority in the Senate this fall, it could provide an alternative and some pressure sooner. Brett?
Mike Emanuel live on the Hill. Mike, thank you. Senators Hatch, Coburn, and Burr will be Greta Van Sustren's guest on the record tonight at 7 Eastern. An embattled leader hemorrhaging approval numbers whose party could possibly lose its tenuous grip on the U.S. Senate, virtually cementing his lame duck status. That is one way to look at what President Obama is facing in the final 24 hours before the State of the Union address. But all indications are the president will come out on the attack. Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry tells us what we know right now.
Today, President Obama used social media to tee up the State of the Union address with a short, innocuous-sounding video.
Tomorrow night, it's time to restore opportunity for all.
Though his top aides are signaling the speech will be a much more aggressive power play. He'll try to work with Congress on issues like immigration, but also stands ready to bypass them with unilateral executive action on issues like the economy, environment, and health care.
Mindful of Congress's reluctance to be cooperative at times, the president is going to exercise his authority. He's going to use his pen and his phone.
The White House today even tweeting out a photo of the pen the president can use to write his speech or take executive action.
If the president wants to move quickly to create jobs, why not take that pen today and approve the Keystone Pipeline?
Ed, as you know, as has been the practice for many years now of administrations of both parties, the reviews involved in an international pipeline like this, a pipeline that crosses an international boundary, are done or run by the State Department.
GOP leaders say the State Department has been studying the Keystone XL pipeline for years, and no Democrats have also urged the president to pull back on trade deals Republicans like.
I think it's time to go in a different direction. And there are some job-creating steps that he could take right now.
A new ABC News Washington Post poll suggests the public may want another direction as well. Only 37% of the public trust the president a great deal or good amount to make the right decisions for the country. 63% say they trust him some or none. Tough numbers for a president with a weak report card from the last State of the Union, when he pushed immigration reform, gun control, and a hike in the minimum wage and got none of it. White House officials say that Republican obstructionism justifies the move to take more executive action, some of which sounds murky, such as officials confirming a Wall Street Journal report the president will announce an agreement with big corporations to make sure the long-term unemployed get a fair shot at a new job.
And the commitments that major employers make in this regard will, if fulfilled, be enormously helpful to this significant challenge.
The key phrase is "if fulfilled," as in the White House is not sure if these corporations will follow through, and the administration does not have any authority to actually enforce this agreement, because it doesn't have the backing of a law passed by Congress, which shows the limits of some of these executive actions, Brett.
Ed Henry live on the North Lawn. Ed, thank you. The father of one of the 4 Americans murdered in the Benghazi terror attacks will be at the State of the Union address. Oklahoma Republican Congressman Jim Bridenstine says he will bring Charles Woods, the father of former Navy SEAL Ty Woods, who died trying to hold off the terrorists as they attacked U.S. facilities in Benghazi. Hillary Clinton says her biggest regret as Secretary of State is what happened in Benghazi. Clinton told a convention audience in New Orleans that the loss of the 4 Americans was, quote, a terrible tragedy that illustrated the challenge of protecting American civilians serving in dangerous parts of the world. Foreign policy continues to vex this president. While the U.S. scored points in Somalia, there are new worries tonight in Afghanistan and Egypt. National security correspondent Jennifer Griffin brings us up to date from the Pentagon. Good evening, Jennifer. So the U.S. carried out a drone strike in Somalia. What do we know about that?
Well, Brett, the U.S. military is not confirming the name of the target, but I'm told that they believe they got their man. He is a well-known leader of al-Shabaab with ties to al-Qaeda. A U.S. Hellfire missile fired from a U.S. drone struck the vehicle he was driving in. Earlier this month, the U.S. sent a handful of uniformed conventional military officers to Mogadishu. They are the first troops based in Somalia since Black Hawk Down in the mid-90s.
Was a shoulder-fired missile that brought down 2 Black Hawks in Somalia. But what could you tell us about the U.S. and an Egyptian helicopter shot down in the Sinai, not far from Israel?
Well, there's a tape from a group known as Ansar Jerusalem purportedly showing one of its fighters firing a Russian-made shoulder-mounted missile or manpad at an Egyptian military helicopter, killing all on board. I'm told it is a Russian SA-6 or 7 in the video. These are similar to the 20,000 manpads that went missing from Gaddafi's warehouses in Libya after his overthrow. But the one fired in Egypt appears to be a different color from those that went missing in Libya. The U.S. sent experts to Libya, you'll remember, to find these shoulder-fired missiles, and remains concerned that those shoulder-fired missiles could bring down a commercial airliner if they fall into the wrong hands, Brett.
A couple of more things. Speaking of weapon sales, any info on this Apache helicopter sale that the administration wants to sell to Iraq?
Yes, the administration informed Congress today that it intends to sell 24 Apache helicopters to Iraq. Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki says he needs them to fight al-Qaeda. Many in Congress are concerned, however, he will use them against his political opponents. The State Department lobbied Capitol Hill not to block the sale, Brett.
Okay, and finally, Afghanistan. Growing frustration with President Hamid Karzai.
Yes, in fact, U.S. military commanders are angry about President Karzai's plan to release 37 dangerous prisoners, some of them Taliban commanders and bomb makers with the blood of American troops on their hands. Karzai, meanwhile, said again today he would not sign a bilateral security agreement until the U.S. arranges peace talks with the Pakistanis. Without an agreement, all U.S. troops have to leave Afghanistan by the end of 2014, Brett.
Busy night on a lot of fronts. Jennifer Griffin live at the Pentagon. Jennifer, thank you. The Dow was down again today, losing 41. The S&P 500 dropped 9. The Nasdaq fell 45. Up next, opening up new fronts and old wounds in the war on women. But first, here's what some of our Fox affiliates across the country are covering tonight. Fox 8 in New Orleans with the first day of the federal corruption trial for former Mayor Ray Nagin. Charges include wire fraud, money laundering, and bribery. He has pleaded not guilty. Fox 9 in Philadelphia with a new meaning for the term royal flush. Workers unclogged a sewer pipe in an Atlantic City hotel room and found fake poker chips. Investigators say they have now linked a North Carolina man with almost $3 million in funny money smuggled into a poker tournament. And this is a live look at Eden Prairie, Minnesota from Fox 9 as the sun sets there. The big story there tonight is the massive cold in Minnesota and an icy chunk of the nation. Wind chills in the Twin Cities expected to be as low as 45 below zero tonight. Chicago is looking at 15 below zero tonight, and that's without the wind chill. Public schools and government offices in much of the Midwest will be closed again Tuesday. Nationwide, about 900 flights have been canceled. That's tonight's live look outside the Beltway as the sun sets in Minnesota. We'll be right back.